Money doesn't grow on trees. It's raining cats and
Dogs.
the early bird catches the
Worm.
if it ain't broke.
Don't fix it.
That's exactly right. And most of the time, I think that's really good advice, unless we're talking about mindset.
Right.
So really quickly, Carol Dweck was a researcher, and she was first trying to find out about failure and how people cope with failure. Now, there was only one problem with the experiment that she designed. When she put it in front of the children, there were a couple kids who, instead of breaking down and being despondent and feeling like a failure when they got to a puzzle that was a little too difficult for them to do on the first try, some of these kids said, "I'm so excited, I love a challenge." Another kid said, "I was hoping this was going to get interesting and educational." And then one child even said, "Can you tell my mom where to get these puzzles? I'd like to do some more at home." So Carol was totally shocked, and she had to change her entire worldview because that's exactly what these kids had done. They didn't have failure in their vocabulary. So she decided, I'm not going to research this dead-end topic. Rather, I want to find out what makes these kids different. And she said the thing that makes them different is their mindset. They're almost in a different place. They're looking at the world through a different set of lenses. Now, speaking of looking at something, you'll notice on the table, there's a little glass bowl in there. Can someone tell me what they see inside that glass bowl on the table? Or
Jewels.
jewels and seeds. Yes, jewels and seeds. And for me, when I was learning about mindset, it was very helpful for me to think about the fixed mindset as being like someone who's looking for a jewel. And the growth mindset is like a farmer. Someone who knows that I need to have a seed, and there's going to be an entire process going through this. And Carol was specifically talking about human potential, how we see it in ourselves and how we see it in others. So that's what mindset is all about. Human potential, is it fixed or can it grow? So that's why we talk about, and I want you to think about this. So if you were going to go and, if you were looking for diamonds, what would you do?
Dig.
You would dig. Maybe you'd
Find out where they're more likely to be.
Yeah, you would find out where they are, but you would know that the location was pretty much the most important thing, because either the diamonds are there or they're not. Now, what about if you're going to try and grow something? If you're going to be a farmer, if you're trying to grow fruit or produce, how does that change your approach? What are some things you might do if you're a farmer?
Good soil.
Good soil. Now, what if you don't have good soil?
Fertilizer.
Yeah, you can fertilize it. There's things that you can do to improve the soil, but you know that you need to have good soil, but you also know that you can improve the soil. What about seeds? Are you just stuck with the seeds that are there in the ground? No.
No.
You can get seeds in any number of places. What about help? If you need help, is there anything wrong as a farmer to go and get help?
Nope.
No, in fact, if you didn't look for that, if you didn't look for other people who knew how to been through the process, you would really be kind of shooting yourself in the foot, which is different than if you were trying to find a mine, and if you found a good mine, would you want to let anybody else know about it?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And interestingly enough, also, what if you had purchased a mine and then it turned out to be a dud? How would you feel?
Out of a lot of money.
Yeah, out of money, disappointed, maybe like you had failed, right? And so it's a very different mindset between if I'm looking for potential, if I'm looking for a diamond as a potential, either it's there or it's not. However, if I know that I'm supposed to be growing my potential, then the whole thing opens up. So what does this have to do with marriage? That's the next question. Well, I want to talk for a second about the media. I want to talk about romantic comedies. And I want to talk about whether or not the romantic comedy script, is this a growth mindset or a fixed mindset when it comes to finding the person you're going to marry and fall in love? What do you think? Fixed. Why do you say that?
Because you have this, they present this idea that all you have to do is do this, and it normally works this way, and if you do X, Y, and Z, steps 1 through 22, then you meet this perfect person, and you don't have to do anything. You fall in love and live happily ever after.
Sherilyn, thank you for finishing my speech. I appreciate it. But as you can see, when it comes to romantic relationship, we're really trying to find the right person, right? And what's interesting about that is while we're dating, we're looking for a bunch of signs.
Right.
Signs that this is the right person.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing if we're looking for a mine. We're looking for all those signs. What are the other minerals in the area? And then we're going to dig deep. And sometimes when we're dating, we don't want to dig that deep with someone, right? We've got some signs pretty early on. Sorry, I've gotten a little off topic there. So, but what happens is if we're looking for those signs that this is the right person, then we get married and we assume that because I've married the right person, my marriage is going to be perfect. It's going to be easy because I did the hard part, which was finding the right person. And then the problem is we start looking for a sign that we are in the wrong relationship. Because that was our first idea, was I'm looking for a sign to know this is the right person, but now that I've had difficulty, now that there's been a challenge, now I'm starting to think, is this a sign that it's the wrong person? Now, how does that shift if we decide to have a growth marriage mindset? Well, it's a little bit different, right? Because we know a good farmer is going to find out about the soil that they have, going to find out about the seeds, going to find out all about the different cycles that it goes through, because you know it's not instantaneous. Because you know there's a lot of different things that are going to be affecting. You know that your seeds need water. You know that they need good soil. We know that they need time. These are all things that we accept with the idea of growth as opposed to the idea of mining or fixed. And so I just want you to think about that today. Do I have a fixed or a growth mindset when it comes to my relationships, to my marriage? Or even if you're not married, how do I feel about the prospect of getting married? Because I believe marriage is so, so very important, but that we have to go into it understanding that there are going to be ups and there are going to be downs. And one thing I want to mention, right now, as we look in your bowls, right, we have those little diamonds and we have the seeds. Now, are either one of those alive?
No.
What would happen if you put that diamond in the ground?
Nothing.
But what would happen if you put that seed in the ground? It would grow, because we know that it has the potential of life. And we believe that it can continue because we know exactly what it is. And yet so often we're looking at our relationships to find a diamond when really we already have a beautiful seed. Thank you.